Hey folks, everything new under the sun. Matthew 24. This is a verse I keep coming back to. This is the NIV, New International Version, and it speaks to the increase in sin and the love of many growing cold, and with that comes violence. And we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit tonight. But Matthew 24 verse 12 says, "Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold." Now, those with faith in Jesus Christ, their love will be overflowing with others. This is the time to shine for the Christian, to love others as Jesus loves you, and to forgive others as Jesus has forgiven you. But most of the world, they think this is all they've got. And when the chips are down, they will be looking out for themselves and no other. And it's important here because it says the love of most will grow cold, but the ones who stands to the end will be saved. So the Christians, the faithful, those who stand to the end will be saved. And this whole chapter is speaking about the last days when the disciples, asked them, when will this happen and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? And so the big theme here is violence, love growing cold, and the requirement of significant faith. And if you stand firm to the end, that almost suggests that, there's going to be a lot of people who do not stand firm to the end. If you stand firm to the end, you will be saved ultimately. So let's go on. And the other verse quickly before we get into the articles is this. This is from Genesis. And this is about the days of Noah. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Think about the state of politics. Think about the corruption. Think about the state of the whole LGBTQ stuff going on, and the woke spirit that is going through the West. And the sexualization of younger and younger people, and the confusion of gender that man has brought upon the world. And is the heart of man continually evil? And you got to say, boy, it's getting there. It's getting there quick. It's just going crazy. And are we in the days just like it was in the times of Noah? I think we're getting there. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're getting there. We're on the move there. And God has a red line, and he's going to deal with it. And I think that God does see that the wickedness of man is great. Think of the hundreds of thousands, millions of babies aborted. And you don't think that God sees the wickedness of man and that it is great in the earth right now? Absolutely it is. But he is patient, and it's going to get worse than this, I think. But the significant part is that every intention of the thoughts of the man's heart was continually evil. So no matter what happened throughout the day, all the thoughts were just evil, evil. This is complete self-indulgent, given over to Satan, the hearts of man, basically at that point. So it's describing a time which is almost inconceivable, but that's the way it was. That's the way it was described in the time of Noah. The earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. Folks, you ain't seen nothing yet. We're going to be talking about a store where there's a significant theft. This is happening all through the United States. And these stores can't stay open anymore. And the more that close, the more violent it will get, because the more people will be desperate, and the more people will lose jobs. And it's just it's a cascading downward spiral in terms of the increase in violence in the last days. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. Ultimately, this will be fulfilled, I think, when the Christians are raptured out of here. And Satan, will do whatever he wants, and he's going to take everybody with him that he can, for sure. So let's take a look at a couple things. This is the conflict. Russia is evacuating children from the border. This is yourhedge.com. As Ukrainian shelling escalates. So as bombs fly into Russia, now the Russian citizens are seeing this conflict come to their front door, their front step, even into their houses potentially, and hitting their relatives, their children, their parents, their grandparents, whatever it is. This is going to cement and increase support for the Russian government going into Ukraine. This is likely a bad move for Ukraine, in my opinion, to go after Russia. Because before this, for the last number of months, a lot of Russians didn't really want to be in Ukraine. They thought, there wasn't much need to go in there, and they don't want to get into a conflict, a war, and they certainly don't want to send their kids to war. But as Ukraine starts bombing inside Russia, now it's bringing it home. Now the Russians are going to start saying, yes, Putin, do whatever you need to do to deal with Ukraine. So this is a milestone. Significant as drones are hitting Moscow and even civilians. There was a report about that on Canadian Prepper. So this is a milestone when they start hitting inside Russia. White House steps up pressure on Turkey. So Biden congratulated Recep Erdogan for winning the election. And Erdogan came out and said on the phone, well, you know what? We want some F-16s, America. When are you going to sell us some F-16s? And Biden said, well, we want Sweden in NATO, so when are you going to agree to it? So Turkey is the holdout. They don't want Sweden in NATO, probably some pressure by the Russians, by Putin himself, to keep Turkey on the Russia's side. And we know biblically that Turkey appears to, in the last days, turn towards Russia and be and walk in lockstep with Russia and be on Russia's side. And Turkey is in the way of Sweden. Now, interesting that Biden is speaking to him about Sweden right now, maybe because there's leverage due to the F-15, saying, if we give you F-16s and you make a deal and you agree that Sweden can come into NATO. But there seems to be an urgency to this as well. It says the time is now to admit Sweden in NATO. Now, is there indication of a timeline there, of a battle growing, possibly World War III, with Russia, where NATO wants Sweden officially under their wing and part of NATO, and underneath the nuclear umbrella, before the conflict starts? And this is what it sounds like Biden is pushing for. So interesting. Now, as it relates to a lot of people making a lot of money. So RFK Jr., he's a Democratic person who's running for president, candidate. That's the word I was looking for. 2024 candidate, running, against Biden, because Biden said he's going to run again. Running against Biden, I guess. And he says, you know what, the Biden administration is lying to us. JFK Jr., or RFK rather Jr., calls for mature conversation. He says, quote, our government is lying to us about it. The media is going on with the lie. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's a laundering operation for the military-industrial complex. This is a Democrat. This is a candidate for the 2024 presidential election, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he's saying the media is lying and spouting propaganda and going along with it, telling a narrative. And it is a laundering operation for the military-industrial complex. It's incredible. And Democrats, I hope you're listening, because I think there's a lot of truth to what he's saying. There's a tweet there about that speech, but incredible. RFK Jr. said, we were told that the reason we were going to war over this is because it was a humanitarian mission. And, of course, we all thought that. My hand's up as well. RFK Jr. said, but then every choice that we made along the way that's been about prolonging the war and increasing the bloodshed and refusing to negotiate. Haven't I said month after month that there is and has been no indication that the U.S. wanted to negotiate, wanted to come to some peace agreement, some settlement? They've just continued to give weapons of war. And when Russia has offered to have peace talks, to negotiate, no word out of the U.S. They are not interested in negotiating. It's incredible. So you can go on Zero Hedge. You can find this. There's tweets, about him saying as much here. So, but there's a lot of people making a lot of money, and probably Biden is one of them. So that's interesting. Now, as it relates to Matthew 24 and the violence increasing in the last days, we have this time where the economy is going downhill, famine is going to kick into high gear, world economic collapse is coming. It's inevitable, all part and parcel, and maybe the trigger of or the result of World War III, whatever it may be. But coming to a grocery store near you are desperate people, and the more desperate they get, the more dangerous things they will do to get what they need, what they think they need, what they've been told they should have, by governments. You should have this, you should have that. And of course, they're not going to go out and work hard for it. They're just going to steal it. Major grocery chain struggles to survive amid wave of thefts, and this is the big thing that's going on, and it's scary. And I don't live in any sort of location where this is happening. I know this is happening in kind of bigger cities in the United States, but shoplifting is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. And if you work at these stores, you know that you're told not to interact. Don't even try and stop them. Simply let them go. Call the police. You don't want to get yourself in harm's way. You don't want to get any of the other patrons in harm's way. You don't want to create a scene. Whatever the value of the item is, bananas or a bag of apples or something, whatever it may be. It's not worth it. Insurance will pay for it. Let them at the door. Let the police handle it. But companies have to pay for this ultimately. At the end of the day, whether by insurance premium increases or simply paying to restock the items that were trashed or dumped or stolen or whatever, and they never get back. And there will come a time when people are so desperate that there will be significant theft in your area. And this is the problem where you may need to be prepared to defend yourself. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about how to defend yourself and your children if you take them shopping? Do you live in a dangerous area where this is likely to happen, and especially as the economy goes downwards and food gets more expensive and people lose their jobs, more and more will be going into these stores violently stealing, and your health and safety is going to be at risk. And is the WHO going to get involved and protect your health and safety in these stores? No, of course not. So it's going to be up to you, and the world's going to spiral downwards. And so I continue to say you ain't seen nothing yet. I think this is going to increase. Giant Food, which operates 160 locations across D.C., Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia, have begun restricting entry and exit points, beefing up store security, some armed security, displaying fewer high-dollar items on shelves. I noticed at Walmart a couple of months ago, I don't know if they're still doing this, but they had portions of meat and chicken under lock and key because and they were limiting people to one each because it's so valuable. People, I guess, stuff it down their shorts and take off. You're only talking $10-15 worth of meat, but there's high value one per person products in even the Walmart where I am, Maritime Canada, under lock and key. It's incredible to see. In what world do we live in where this is happening? But we live in the sinful world that exists just before the Antichrist comes to power, the end of days, and most people are have no idea what's coming. Just like the guy who rode down the street on the dirt bike in the background there, he probably has no idea what's coming, folks. Most of the people around me have no idea what's coming, and when if I say such things, they just say you're crazy. They look at me like I'm crazy, and that's never going to happen. You need to be prepared, folks. It goes on. According to the nature of the shoplifting, according to Crest, the nature of shoplifting has changed such that more and more retailers are simply allowing it, like Lululemon, who recently fired 2 employees. 2 employees were fired. 2 employees were let go. They lost their jobs because they called the police on the repeat looters. The employees called the police on the looters, and the employees lost their jobs. In what upside down world do you think we live in? And that's exactly what Satan wants. He wants complete confusion. He wants complete backwards. Up is down, down is up, left is right, right is left. He wants everything absolutely confused. Looking at the genders, looking at all these things. Good is bad and bad is good. And if you try and do something good for the health and safety of others, well, you're infringing on the apparent rights of the looters to steal what they want. It's incredible. We used to chase shoplifters, Kress said, and you'd get the product back, and nobody would ever fight you. I didn't worry that someone would be pulling a knife or a gun at me 40 years ago, he said. And that's changed everywhere in the Western world simply because of the fact that we are not Christian countries anymore. The faith, religious folks in the world are decreasing. Well, maybe the religious folk are increasing, but certainly those who have faith in Jesus Christ are decreasing. People are coming up with their own gods, saying that they are their own gods and the masters of their universe, whatever it may be, and they go by their own rules. And that's a problem with society. If you decide that there are no actual correct, valid, one set of rules for everybody, that means everybody can make up their own rules. And when everybody can make up their own rules, that's called anarchy. That's called violence. That's called the love of many growing cold. That's called the last days, and that's called what Satan wants. He wants to just have everyone in complete disarray. They have no idea what the truth is. They think that there is no absolute truth, and so they can make it up. You can believe you're a woman if you're a man, and vice versa. You can do whatever you want. And that's what Satan wants, because it completely confuses and makes a mockery of what God designed in the first place. So this is coming to a store near you. Are you ready for it? What are you going to do when this happens? You're going to have to start learning maybe some self-defense. Maybe go learn some martial arts, something to protect you. Maybe think twice, as your society goes downwards, about taking children to stores. These are decisions we're going to have. I don't think we have to make these right now, but these are decisions we're going to have to start making as we head into the future. Can you protect your homestead? Do you have the means, the ability? Do you have the supplies to protect your family, your neighbors, whomever it may be, from bands of roaming marauders who may be looking for easy targets, who are spilling out of the cities when things go sideways and coming into the countryside looking for food, valuables, water, shelter, whatever it may be. These people are going to be desperate. You're not going to be able to argue with them, and you're not going to be able to say, hey, that's illegal, you can't do that. There's not going to be any police to enforce that. When there's no police, when there's nobody enforcing what's legal or not legal, laws don't matter anymore. That's what you need to realize. And that's when, at some point, you have to take the law into your own hands. And that's the case in many countries around the world. And even right now. We're not quite there yet in North America. But, boy, you look at some of these inner cities, and they are becoming that place of lawlessness already. In fact, even where there is law, the law protectors, the police, are being told to stand down and not implement or not force the law, not to restrain people who have stolen things, and to let them go and to give them light sentences, etc. So the world's going sideways, folks, and it's because of the influence, the salt of the earth, I won't say losing its flavor, but maybe you could argue that. But certainly in the last days, we know this was foretold in the Bible, and things will get worse. They're not getting better. So thanks for watching, folks. We'll leave it there. We'll see you in the next video.